murder.
Modern age.
Containing the active moisturising ingredient.
From sexy stockings, fetishes, to practical types.
A pair of dead slugs on the bedroom floor.
Lovely ladies filling Christmas stockings. Tuesday, 8:30 on 5.
When you know it, you feel it, and a doubt about it, your relationship is burned. No need to scream and shout it, just pack up, ship out, find a place of your own. And for all your new things, you know where to come. Make a fresh start.
£2 off? £2 off?
I never thought I'd feel this way.
£2 off?
About you.
Iceland by appointment to Father Christmas.
What does every mum want for Christmas? Softer, smoother skin. Isn't that what every mum wants for Christmas? Oil of Olay for Christmas.
Presenting the Dremel Multi. You cut, Dremel cuts. You sharpen, Dremel sharpens. You clean, Dremel cleans. You sand, Dremel sands. Did I mention we cut? With more than 100 accessories, the Dremel Multi is even more versatile than a Swiss Army knife. When ordinary tools won't do, use the Multi with Flex Shaft. The compact, flexible shaft makes it the perfect tool in a tight spot. Dremel.
You can call it the next World War.
This is the end.
This week, First on 5 uncovers those who say the countdown to New Year's Eve is a shutdown in Apocalypse Y2K.
This is the end.
Here's that hit single by the Lone Rangers.
Oh, bogus, dude. Oh, look at his hair, man. Who'd listen to this? It sucks.
Sit down on the floor now.
Like you'd have to be forced to listen, man, like at gunpoint.
Get down.
Just shut your pie hole and keep working.
It's the fire.
Whoa, Steve Buscemi, Brendan Fraser, Adam Sandler, they're all airheads. Christmas Eve at 9 on 5.
Before a feast of sport, including the Ironman Challenge here at 2:05, something short and sharp.
Hoods Nation. Sponsors. Sharp Shorts.
Person wanted must be level-headed, think logically, be self-disciplined, but most of all, a good head for heights. My name is Helen Watson, and I'm an airline pilot. The sheer enjoyment, the sheer thrill of taking an aircraft off the runway into the air.
Correct, 192 Delta, clear takeoff, runway 25, the surface wind cam.
I just get a kick out of knowing that I've achieved something. I've got all these people who are relying on me to get them there. What a beautiful evening. Cold mornings, getting on a cold aircraft is maybe not so pleasant. There's quite a physical aspect to it, particularly this type of aircraft, because it won't land itself. But generally speaking, size is not that important as far as flying is concerned. The most exciting part of flying is landing it. It involves the most skill,
That's 100 feet.
the most accuracy, and it's a bit of a challenge sometimes.
50. There's quite bumpy there.
If I was to win 10 million or 20 million, it wouldn't matter how much money, I would definitely continue to fly. It's fun, it's great fun.
Hoots Nation. Sponsors. Sharp Shores.
He's not going to stop. He's enjoying it, and what he's doing is killing young women.
He was violent.
A lot of lives just gone right down the tubes because of me. And the worst thing is I don't understand why.
Bobby Joe Long, Serial Killer, Murder Detectives, starts Tuesday at 11:30 on 5.
Boxing Day.
Terrible gas.
Lovely. Time to sit back and watch other people being active. Ooh, boom boom. Stars in their cars off on a jolly. Whoopsie Goldberg.
That rhino has the biggest butt that I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, how cute. Ooh, look, there's Melinda Messenger running about with some chums trying to keep their Christmas leftovers down.
Hi.
And here's Matthew Modine. He's the hero in our film.
Frightening.
So, couch potatoes, veg out and enjoy the last Boxing Day of the millennium ever on 5.
NFL, the conclusion of the Iron Man Challenge, and motor racing now on 5, keeping you active from your armchair.
Welcome along. NFL Week 15, still 23 teams in contention. There's no rest for the wicked over the holiday season, eh, Mike?
Well,
That's
I've been resting, yeah.
That's good. And I see you brought your own tree.
Yeah, it's a nice one, isn't it?
Very impressive.
It's real needles here.
Yeah, splashed out.
Almost real.
£5. £5, I tell you. Top whack. Okay, without further ado, let's have a look at the AFC postseason scenario now, shall we? And going into Week 15, Indianapolis and Jacksonville secured wildcard berths, and both could wrap up their respective divisions. Tennessee could grab a playoff place with a win, whilst the Dolphins and the Seahawks were both looking to break 3-game losing streaks. Mike takes us through the AFC contenders.
The Steelers have been hopeless away from home, but in Kansas City Saturday, Mike Tomczak put them on the board first with a 12-yard pass to rookie Troy Edwards. But Tony Gonzalez took a 15-yarder from Elvis Gerbach to tie the score at 7 just 2 minutes later. Leading 10-7, Tomczak threw his second touchdown pass to Edwards, only this time it was Kansas City linebacker Donnie Edwards who went 28 yards with a pick to put the Chiefs in pole position. Another Gerbach to Gonzalez touchdown pass made it 21-13 at the half, and in the third quarter, Derek Alexander broke the game open when he went 82 yards on an end around, breaking tackles all the way down the field and giving Kansas City a 28-13 lead. A 10-yard touchdown run by Bam Morris sealed the fate of the Steelers. The Chiefs went on to win 35-19. Morris and Tony Richardson combining for 153 yards rushing. A big day for Tony Gonzalez, and Donnie Edwards had 9 tackles to go with 2 interceptions. The slumping Seahawks slouched into Denver and suddenly saw the Broncos sneak into the lead on rookie Chris Watson's 81-yard punt return for a touchdown, the last block coming from 39, Ray Crockett. But Seattle's John Kitna struck back, hitting Mike Pritchard from 16 to tie the game up. Still in the first quarter, Brian Griese put Denver up 14-7 with a strike to Rod Smith. Then in the fourth quarter, Olandis Gary's 71-yard run set up Griese's second touchdown pass That one went to Dwayne Carswell to give the Broncos a 30-20 lead with less than 2 minutes to play. But Kitna hit Derek Mays to bring the Seahawks within 3 with 56 seconds left on the clock. And after Seattle recovered an onside kick, Todd Peterson kicked a 45-yard field goal to send the game into overtime. But Ray Crockett sacked Kitna, knocked the ball loose, and Glenn Cadrez picked it up and went 37 yards for the score. And that sent Seattle to their 4th straight loss, 36-30. Olandis Gary, 183 yards on the ground for Denver. Rod Smith, 7 catches. Ricky Waters, 100-yard rushing for the Seahawks. Jacksonville brought the league's best record into the dog pound, and Mark Brunell's bootleg TD to Damon Jones put them up 7-0 over the Browns, and Damon was listening for the barking. The Jags ran the same play again, but Brunell left the decision to pass or run up in the air. And eventually he came down for a 9-yard touchdown and a 14-0 lead. But Terry Kirby put the Browns back on the board from 1 yard out. It was still the first quarter, and it was 14-7. Ty Detmer replaced an injured Tim Couch and hit Darren Chiaverini for a 10-yard touchdown to cut the lead to 3 in the 3rd quarter. But Fred Taylor, who's in because James Stewart is out, went 41 yards for a 4th quarter touchdown. That sealed the game for the Jags and kept the NFL's best record intact. Taylor had his best game of the season, 136 yards on the ground. Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardell had 8 catches each. The Tennessee Titans kept pace with Jacksonville, hosting the Atlanta Falcons. It didn't take long for Steve McNair and Chris Sanders to put the T's on top by a touchdown. Derek Mason, 85, with the big block there. Chris Chandler was out, but Danny Cannell hit Jamie German from 16 yards out to tie the game up. Then my favorite play of the week, a cherry picker to tight end Frank Wycheck, who floats the ball out to Isaac Byrd. He's as alone as Cecil Collins on a Saturday night. Byrd goes 81 yards for the score and does the ugliest dirty bird you'll ever see. But another German airstrike from Danny Cannell put the Falcons back within 3. They trailed 20-14 at the half. It was 20-17 in the 4th quarter when McNair did a Mark Brunell imitation, staying on the ground as the Titans win 30-17 to set up a big showdown with the Jags. McNair rushed for 76 yards, 21 more than Eddie George. Danny Cannell sprained knee ligaments, and he's out for the season. The NFC East leaders visited the AFC East leaders, and Edger and Jones put the Colts on top with a fantastic catch of a 37-yard pass from Peyton Manning. Perfect strike, perfect catch. In the 2nd quarter, Brad Johnson put the Skins on top with a 48-yarder to Albert Connell. Brad kept it away from the defender. The Skins led 10-7. They led 13-10 at the half. In the 3rd quarter, Stephen Davis sprained his left ankle. He's uncertain for next week's game. Watch the block by Tariq Glenn, 78, as James breaks a 20-yard run to put the Colts into scoring position. And Indianapolis duly took the lead on Manning's 1-yard dink to Ken Dilger. And now watch Edger and James' second effort as he gets his second TD from 2 yards out, and that put the Colts up 24-13. Brian Mitchell scored on an 8-yard draw, but even with a 2-point conversion, Indy won 24-21 to clinch their first NFC East title in 12 years when they were back in Baltimore. And just in case the Indiana fans are really thick, the scoreboard spelled it out for them. Another great day for Marvin Harrison. Edger and James, 148 total yards, but it was a big game from the AFC's best quarterback, Peyton Manning, and he explained the changes in Nap City.
We believe in ourselves this year. We have more confidence. I think a lot of guys got tired of losing last year, and we worked hard this offseason, and we played better football this year.
Buffalo shuffled down to Arizona, and Eric Moulds put the Bills ahead on a 15-yard pass from Doug Flutie. Jonathan Linton dragged a few defenders along for the ride as he put Buffalo up 14-0 on 2nd and then 3rd effort on this 6-yard touchdown. But Mario Bates scored 2 second-quarter TDs on short runs. The game was tied 14-all at halftime. In the fourth quarter, leading 17-14, Flutie hit Jay Reamersma to put the Bills up by 10, but Jake Plummer came right back to Rob Moore to bring Arizona within 3 with less than 2 minutes to play. Then the Cardinals trying the onside kickoff. Buffalo's Henry Jones grabs the ball and goes untouched, 31 yards, to give the Bills a 31-20 win. Linton, Flutie, and Thomas combined for 159 yards rushing. The Bills outgained Arizona by 200 yards, 376 to 176. In Miami, there wasn't much but field goals on show. Dan Marino's 55-yard pass to Arondi Gadsden led to, yes, a 21-yard field goal by Olindo Mare and a 6-3 halftime lead for the Dolphins over San Diego. With the score tied at 6 in the fourth quarter, Ray Lee Johnson recovered a Marino fumble. The Chargers had first and goal on the 4. They settled for a 31-yard field goal by John Carney and a 9-6 lead. But Jim Harbaugh's hotly disputed fumble on a scramble was recovered by Brock Marion. That led to, yes, another field goal by Olindo Mare. The Dolphins led 12-9. They went on to win by the same score, but it wasn't actually over until John Carney hit the upright from 36 yards out with 5 seconds left, or else the game would have been prolonged into OT, and so would the agony. Remember when New England was 6-2? No, they don't either, and here's why. Jeremiah Trotter picking off Drew Bledsoe to give the Eagles good field position in the first quarter. The Eagles already up 3-zip. And then the Pats get burned by Torrance Small and Coy Detmer. That's Coy Detmer, not Ty Detmer. That's like losing an election to Terry Major. Bledsoe must have figured this one was as good as a punt, but Al Harris returns the interception 75 yards to set up yet another score by Philadelphia. And even when he fumbles, the Eagles just keep right on going. So Detmer, the big Eagle, found Small again, and Philadelphia led 17-6 at halftime. ///. Whatever Pete Carroll told the Pats at halftime sure did the trick, because Detmer couldn't find Small again, so he hit Dedrick Gels for 44 yards. The Eagles were up 24-6. They went on to win 24-9. 4 interceptions by Bledsoe, 3 touchdowns by Detmer, 93 on the ground for Deuce Staley, and New England can kiss their season goodbye. And looking at the AFC standings, Indianapolis have won their division and clinched a bye in the first week of the playoffs. That's why they're in that sort of Christmas tree brown kind of ochre color. Buffalo and Miami behind them. New England, talking about chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Pete Carroll's chestnuts are roasting right now. And in the Central Division, Jacksonville and Tennessee have both clinched playoff spots. The winner of that division will also get a bye. Remember, they play next week. And finally, in the AFC West, Kansas City can win the division if they beat Seattle next week. And if the playoffs were to start next week, the division champions would be Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and Kansas City. The wild cards would be Tennessee, Buffalo, and Miami. And now the thing with those teams in white, Kansas City, Tennessee, Buffalo, and Miami, all control their own destinies. As we said, the Titans are already in the playoffs, but Kansas City can get in by beating Seattle next week. Buffalo and Miami, if they win their remaining 2 games, would definitely be in. And as we said, the Patriots, although they have the same record as Oakland and Baltimore, are already eliminated because they've lost too many tiebreakers within their division.
So I suppose the first piece of action we should look at is Miami and Seattle. I mean, they approached this weekend going downhill rapidly, and it was Miami, well, they kicking and screaming, but they dragged themselves back into it.
Miami managed to turn themselves around. They had more than twice as many yards rushing than San Diego. They had 53.
Wow.
San Diego had 26.
It was a thriller, wasn't it?
It was a defensive battle. As we said, that Harbaugh fumble was hotly disputed, but San Diego did have a chance to tie the game, and John Carney, who I think is one of the best kickers in the game, had an uncharacteristic miss. So the Dolphins came through. Now, I said last week that Jimmy Johnson would rather have no turnovers and win 13-9, and I think that was fairly prophetic because they won 12-9.
Yeah.
And so all you people out there who are writing in and complaining about that,
so
I
you
was
weren't
right.
being negative, you were just being correct.
Yeah, and Seattle, on the other hand, I'm not sure what's happening there, but my gut feeling is that Joey Galloway's return has ruined the chemistry of that team. I mean, that may be too simplistic, but to me, it's just no coincidence. They won after he came back, but then they went on to this losing streak. I think when they started to realize that Galloway was just back for next year's contract, and then all of a sudden John Kitna started throwing interceptions, and Ricky Waters started fumbling the ball. Turnovers have been killing Seattle for the last 4 weeks.
It's ironic, isn't it? Because this is the time of the season when teams are looking for their guys who perhaps picked up those early injuries to come back and help them with that last run, and it's simply not worked.
And that's what it looked like Joey Galloway would do in the first 2 weeks. And, you know, Kansas City, on the other hand, has come through at the right time, using guys who were hurt earlier in the season, like Bam Morris, and guys who've stepped up to play. You know, so it's been like running back by committee. And this week, my play of the week, even though I loved Frank Wycheck's cherry picker pass from a tight end.
Absolute peach for a cherry picker.
We didn't have a good enough shot, but this is a tremendous end around from Kansas City's Derek Alexander. Alexander's up here, and the guy to watch defensively is Jason Gilden, who's over here for Pittsburgh, because he's going to buy the fake and step just one step too far to his right. So here we go now. And you see how the blockers are going left. Gilden steps to the right. Now he's too late to recover. Look at Tim Grunhard, the center, 61, pulling. Alexander cuts behind him. Gilden hesitates, and Alexander beats him. Now look at this. He breaks a tackle. John Tate's downfield to throw a block on Earl Holmes. He breaks another tackle. And then Tony Gonzalez just kills Levon Kirkland back there. And now look at the pursuit by Earl Holmes, 50, who'd gotten blocked by Tate, but he's back up. And this is a 250-pound linebacker chasing Alexander. He's not going to catch him, but it's a great bit of running by Alexander, a great bit of downfield blocking by the team. And we keep saying how, you know, when teams are winning, everybody blocks downfield. Yeah. And the Steelers, apart from the missed tackles, you know, a lot of effort by the defenders.
And KC in Seattle next week as well. I mean, that's
great game, great matchup next week.
Absolute cracker.
But not as good as the one in the AFC Central division.
No, this is amazing, isn't it? I mean, these two teams, I mean, they're really impressive. Yeah.
And Jacksonville, you know, have done it. They've won with James Stewart. They've won with Fred Taylor. They've won with Mark Brunell at quarterback. They've even won with Jay Fiedler at quarterback, and that's an amazing thing. And, you know, they just keep rolling on. They're a solid team. They've got the best defense in the NFL, basically, in terms of points allowed. Their offense has been good all year. If they have one weakness, it's they don't have a big game-breaking receiver, but you have to shut down both McCardell and Jimmy Smith. Tennessee haven't been as impressive, but they won with Neil O'Donnell earlier in the season. They're winning with Steve McNair, even though he hasn't been passing all that well. Eddie George has been on and off on the ground, but they've also got a really tough defense. And Javon Kearse, the rookie, has now set a record for sacks by a rookie. I think it's 12.5 he's got already, and boy, was he a steal at number 16 in the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they really grind their results out, don't they, Tennessee? I mean, this is, you know, it may not be the most. It wasn't exactly fireworks their way through the season, but they did it, didn't they? And, you know, they have to beat Jacksonville, they have to win this game because they already beat Jacksonville once. That's their only loss. And then if they win their last game, they would win that division. But both teams are going through the playoffs. Whichever team wins the division will have a bye in the first week. And Jacksonville were playing Cleveland this week, which is always easy. You might have gone with this as a play of the week on a slightly bizarre tip.
This is more like your play of the week.
Yeah, exactly. I liked it.
But let's take a look, because Orlando Brown of Cleveland is the offensive tackle on the right side, and that is the penalty flag coming in from the referee, and it hits Orlando Brown right in the eye. Now look at the size of Orlando Brown. I mean, this guy's the second biggest Orlando in the United States. And then Orlando came in on the next play, and he threw Jeff Triplett to the ground. Jeff Triplett regarded as 3 of the worst referees in the NFL by some people, and Orlando got immediately ejected from the game. Look at that shiner.
How about that?
And
you can understand his frustration, but of course, the last thing he has got to do is walk out on the field and assault.
He'll face, shall we say, a substantial fine and possibly even a suspension for doing that, although you can understand why. And you know that flag is wrapped in a little lead sinker to get it to go, and so when that hits you in the eye, it's got to hurt.
It's got to hurt, absolutely. Now, let's look at the AFC East. I mean, how impressive are Indianapolis? I mean, this has been an amazing run.
Incredibly, and they get more so each week. It's not just the fact that they've got their own triplets, you know, going, because it's more it's a better team effort than that. Ken Dilger, I think, is one of the unheralded stars of the league at tight end. He hasn't caught a lot of passes. And Indianapolis has now turned their season around 9 games from last year already, which ties the all-time record in the NFL, which was set back in 1929 by the Giants. But that means, you know, one more win, and they become the biggest turnaround in NFL history.
Wow.
From losing season. They were 3-13 last year to winning season.
And we heard it being described as, you know, sitting down, chatting about it and playing hard. I mean, there's got to be a little bit more detail involved than that.
Bill Polian's done a great job of drafting brilliantly like he did in Buffalo, and also signing free agents brilliantly like he did in Carolina. He's put the two together.
Absolutely. Okay, slightly different story for you now in the NFC postseason scenario. And in the NFC, only the St. Louis Rams were definitely in. They claimed the Western Division, and a win would give them home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Washington's defeat had left things open in the East for Dallas and the Giants. Two Central Division teams are also in line to qualify for at least a wild card berth. That's the Bucks and the Lions, who are both on the road. Back to Mike.
After a big Monday night win, Tampa traveled to Oakland for a different sort of battle of the Bays and soon wished they hadn't. Tim Brown's 20-yard TD pass from Rich Gannon gave the Raiders a 7-0 lead. And then Oakland's ground game took over. Tyrone Wheatley, who just signed a 3-year contract, went 30 yards for a touchdown that put the Raiders up 17-0 at the half. It wasn't just Oakland's D playing well. The Bucks couldn't get anything going as Sean King played magician. Lance Johnston returned the disappearing ball 13 yards. Oakland was up 24-0. Tampa were allowing only 80 yards per game rushing up until this week, but Wheatley and Napoleon Kaufman each went over 100 yards themselves. Kaufman had almost 80 yards on this run, his second TD of the game. It went for 75. Wheatley had 2 TDs on the ground as well. Oakland won 45-0. They held Mike Allstott and Warwick Dunn to a combined 17 yards rushing. Kaufman and Wheatley combined 233. That's really all you need to know. In Chicago, Bobby Ingram was just the appetizer as he caught a 3-yard touchdown from Cade McNown to give the Bears a 7-3 lead over Detroit. The main course was Marcus Robinson. His 1-yard touchdown made it 14-3 Bears at halftime. Cade McNown says, "Can I have my parking pass back now?" Then in the third quarter, Robinson made it look like he was back in Dusseldorf. It became 21-3 on this 36-yard touchdown, and Robinson was doing the Rhine Rumba. You go to the left, you go to the right. Former NFL Europe MVP made it 28-3 with his third touchdown from McNown. This one was Randy Moss stuff, and we'll spare you the dancing this time. Final score was 28-10. Robinson 11 catches, 3 TDs. Ingram 10 catches for 94 yards. And Johnny Morton, the Detroit receiver, knew something was wrong.
I thought from the get-go we were playing like we were 5-8 instead of 8-5, and the Bears played like they wanted to get into the playoffs. And you know, we went from to the driver's seat to the like hanging on by a hand on the tailgate.
It took instant replay to confirm it, but Az-Zahir Hakim's 3-yard touchdown from Kurt Warner put the Cardinals up 10-0 at the half over the Giants at home in St. Louis. It was 10-3 in the third when Devin Bush intercepted Kerry Collins and went 45 yards for a touchdown. That gave the Rams a 17-3 lead. Then Kurt Warner hit the Wizard of Oz again. Hakeem goes 65 yards with the pass to extend the lead to 3 touchdowns. And the former Sacramento Surge linebacker Mike Jones turned in a 22-yard interception return for another touchdown, which clinched the game and also clinched home field advantage throughout the playoffs for the Rams. They beat the Giants 31-10. Even though their offense only got 17 points, everybody said they couldn't beat a team with a winning record. And the Giants did have a winning record, even if it was only by just 1 game coming into this game. They don't have a winning record anymore. In Dallas, you'd never know Emmitt Smith is carrying more injuries than some teams. His pass from Troy Aikman put Dallas up 7-6. But the Jets came right back with Ray Lucas hitting Richie Anderson on the run to take a 13-7 lead. Eric Bjornsson went 20 yards on a fake field goal. That put Dallas up 14-13 at the half. And Shangali had more trickery in store. Rocket Ismail going 27 yards on an end around. That gave Dallas a 21-13 lead in the third quarter. But Lucas was accurate again on the run. A 2-yard touchdown pass to Blake Spence, his first ever NFL TD, brought the Jets within 2. And after Victor Green intercepted Troy Aikman, John Hall's third field goal of the game gave the Jets a 22-21 lead, which held up as Troy Aikman threw 4 incompletions on the final drive. This was the 4th. It ended the game. Jets win by 1, and Aikman, despite a bad day, was convinced that the Cowboys still have a good shot at a playoff berth, even though their record dropped to a mere 7-7.
Now we're 7-7. You know, it's hard to imagine being 7-7 and thinking that you could still be a playoff team, but we still could be. And so until they sit there and tell us that the season's over and we don't get to play any more games, then, you know, we're going to keep going out and keep giving it the best shot we've got.
In Baltimore, one Priest was too much for the Saints as touchdown Tony Banks hit Priest Holmes for a 34-yard touchdown to give the Ravens a 10-0 lead over Ditka's Angels. Banks added another touchdown, this one to Justin Armour, to make the score 17-0 Rams at the half. The pocket rocket was added again. Quadri Ismail turns this Banks pass into a 65-yard touchdown and a 24-0 lead. I wonder why no Ismail brother ever won a Heisman Trophy. Billy Joe Tolliver got a consolation score to Keith Poole. But then Baltimore's Corey Harris reminded Danny Werfel of just which team would do the marching in today. Harris brings this interception back for a touchdown. The Ravens win 31-8 and show off their new Busby Berkeley end zone routine. Call it springtime for Billick. Timing is everything, Mr. Webster. Whoops. Tony Banks, 300 yards, 3 TDs, 3 interceptions. The Ravens had 4 picks, and in a losing cause, Leroy Glover had 11 tackles and 3 sacks. With Ray Karrath facing life without parole, Mushin Muhammad has stepped up big for the Panthers. His 8-yard touchdown from Steve Berline put them up 7-0. They hooked up again to make it 14-3 on this 14-yarder, and Berline hustled to get a clear look at Mushin's fan dance. Jeff Garcia got the Niners back within a touchdown on a 48-yard toss to Jerry Rice with less than 30 seconds to play in the first quarter. Now leading 24-17 in the third, Berline hit Patrick Jeffers for a 55-yard touchdown to put Carolina back on top by 2 touchdowns. No fan dance from Jeffers, sadly. The Niners got back within 10, but Berline's 4th touchdown of the day, his 3rd to Muhammad, put the game away. Carolina win 41-24 and sneak back into the wild card race. The Niners lost their 10th game of the season. That's the first time that's happened since 1980. Berline had 368 yards and 4 touchdowns on the day. Jeffers, who's replaced Ray Karrath, was 8 for 138, and Muhammad had 11 catches and 3 TDs. And so the standings at the end of Week 15 in the NFC East, Washington still on top. The Giants in Dallas just keeping their heads above water. Arizona at 6-8. In the Central, Tampa Bay still lead the division. Detroit is a game behind them. Green Bay plays Minnesota in our game Monday Night Football. And Chicago still in the playoff hunt at 6-8. And out west, St. Louis have wrapped up home field advantage throughout the playoffs, perfect in their division on a 6-game winning streak. And the Carolina Panthers at 7-7 have actually snuck back into wild card contention.
Well, nice symmetry, I suppose, to that day. Everyone was rubbish. Who needed to be good?
It's a good way to describe it, yeah.
It's funny, I mean, you know, just those jitters, is it, I guess? Is it?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Cowboys basically threw the game away for the, well, with the Jets by going with Troy Aikman going for a touchdown on a pass that he was never going to complete, when a field goal probably would have iced the game for them at the, at that stage in the fourth quarter. Minnesota Green Bay can't both lose tonight, so one of them has got to keep pace with Tampa. But I think Tampa was just basically tired out from those 2 big emotional wins with Sean King, and then they had to travel after Monday night. They had to go to the West Coast to play Oakland.
They can live without that win, basically.
Yeah, it doesn't describe, it doesn't excuse 45-0, but a loss is a loss. So. Yeah,
but there is a whole mess of teams in there that have not looked impressive, but have still given themselves plenty of chances to be there in the postseason, haven't they?
Yeah, and if we take a look at if the playoffs were to start today, how they'd look in the NFC. You'd basically, your division winners would be Washington, Tampa, and St. Louis, although neither Washington or Tampa have wrapped it up yet. Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota would be the wild card teams. But I mean, you can see quite easily 9 and 7 will probably get you into the playoffs with a wild card in this division, and that's because the Giants are going to be playing Dallas. Green Bay is playing in their division, and if we take a look at those matchups for the 7 and 7 teams going in, the Giants have the Vikings and the Cowboys. The Cowboys have the Saints and the Giants, so obviously one of them is going to have 8 losses at some point. And the Saints also play Carolina, who play the Steelers. So Carolina really has the best shot there of finishing 9 and 7. You know, if they don't, they've only got themselves to blame.
And have you looked at that and kind of picked through the bones of it? I mean, can you feel a way that little lot might go?
Actually,
I thought I'd dump this one on
I
you.
don't see the Giants making it. I can't see them beating both Minnesota and Dallas, although if Minnesota lose tonight, as I have predicted, I will then predict that they'll lose to the Giants the next week. And I was good last week in football briefing. I picked 3 upsets, and they were Oakland, Chicago, and the Jets. So I was feeling pretty good about that.
And St. Louis obviously are a factor in there as well. I mean, will they bother? I mean, they must enjoy winning.
That's the interesting point. If you're going in to play St. Louis in the last week of the season, do they rest people? It's always a coaching dilemma. You don't want your guys hurt. You don't want them to lose their edge. You know, you in football, you're more likely to get hurt when you're not playing for real than you are if you're playing for real. So, you know, it's an awful thing to try to tank a game in football or to take your foot off the pedal.
Which we heard from Troy Aikman there. I mean, he'd be quite happy to bundle his way through into the postseason. But it's not a pretty sight for Dallas, is it?
You know, and people talk about injuries, but a lot of teams have been hurt by injury. Dallas is one of them, obviously. Smith has been playing hurt. Aikman's missed games. Michael Irvin obviously is out, and they have no receivers to replace him. That's been a huge loss for them. But there's an awful lot of teams, you know, that have coped with serious injuries and come through. I mean, we talked about Jacksonville earlier. Tampa, you know, Trent Dilfer's out, which many people would say is the key to their turnaround. But you know, injuries are part of the game of football, and how you cope with them is a part of that game as well.
And of course, and coping with postseason as well, because teams like, I mean, Dallas have been there, and if they can just get there, perhaps they could make it.
The interesting thing is that when you lose the 3 guys who have been there, I mean, in a sense, you lose that motivation. And there's a lot of guys down there who haven't been, and that may be the difference. Michael Irvin is a big game player. Emmitt Smith obviously leads by example, but he's not a vocal kind of leader like Irvin is. And I mean, Emmitt Smith just played his heart out in this loss to the Jets. I mean, he had a tremendous game. He's lost that step. So a couple of gains he could have had on plays to the outside he didn't get. But he was making guys miss. He's playing with a broken hand, and he's catching passes. It was an impressive performance.
St. Louis head and shoulders, though, for you?
They've got to be the outstanding team in the NFC without a question.
Absolutely. Okie dokie, as we mentioned at the top.
You know, one last thing. They're playing the Bears coming up. Gary Crowton against Mike Martz, the 2 best young offensive coordinators in the league this year.
So
just
nice
thought I'd get that
inside game there.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Excuse me a second. Now,
shook you up.
We are obviously, as you probably noticed, we are approaching the Christmas season now. It is the season to be jolly, I think you find. That's probably quite accurate.
Not around here.
No, it's actually...
Not unless I come up with better material.
No, around here it's the season to take the mickey a little bit, I think you'll find. Mike's will be coming up in a couple of minutes' time, but for now, here is my Christmas cracker.
The locker room's on fire!
If you think you're safer on the field, fellas, think again. Here's Leslie Visser, and as ever, she's dressed to scare.
Alan Boomer, people might have noticed the unusual neck brace. It doesn't match my outfit.
Leslie, what do you have?
Al, it's more than a sprinkle.
Obviously, it's not often that you'll see one of the Jags on the slide. And you have to say the Titans could be definitely on the way up. I mean, who couldn't use a 20-foot linebacker? And if it's true that every dog has his day, and indeed his dinner served up on a plate, well, come on, let's celebrate. Indeed, let's celebrate good times. Come on, said Cool and the gang. That means you too, Obi Brett. Turn away from the dark side. I mean, after all, this could have been you. As it goes, with Jason Seahall. Okay, I've been dying to say this all season. Back to you, Al.
George, whoa, the fireworks go off. It's caught by Carter. Unbelievable. Scare the hell out of everybody in the building. That may be the most amazing touchdown catch in history.
And that was Al's reaction at the time, wasn't it? It really did catch him on the hop, didn't it? Great stuff indeed, that was. From your point of view, have you obviously looked back on that Cleveland Browns incident? Wouldn't necessarily be one of the most comical, but has anything else occurred to you that's caught your eye?
No.
Of course it hasn't. The Cleveland caught your eye. That would be a flag.
Leslie Visser catches my eye every week.
That's
and every
right.
week is more outstanding. What I love the most is the jam-filled biscuit that she was wearing.
Nice. She had a jammy dodger on here, and we should point out as well, that was a hat and not a hair. I mean, that was during the course of that there.
I think you're very cruel to the female portion of the announced team there.
Well, obviously, from my point of view, it's the kind of thing that I'll do once and once only. You've got people to take the mickey out of in a minute anyway.
Yeah, well, I take the mickey out of Boomer, so that you know.
Seems fair. Mike's back with that in a moment's time. Plus, we look forward to our game of the week. See you in a moment.
I want to be stuck in a dead-end job. Yes, Mr. Smith. Well, thank you, Mr. Smith.
You're just a click away from the job you deserve.
When you've got a cold sore, don't hide away. Treat it with new, improved Sabirax. Whether it's a blister or just a tingle, nothing can clear it faster. New, improved Sabirax, putting the smile back on your face.
Never again. Oh.
Alka-Seltzer XS. For the morning after, the millennium before.
Welcome back. In a few minutes' time, we'll be looking back at your actual NFL pre-millennium year, and Mike's going to be talking us through the game of the week. But before we press on any further, let me give you Channel 5's playoff scenario. This is how we're going to be doing our business. Starting on Saturday, the 8th of January at 12 noon, as you can see, we'll be preempting all of those playoff games in NFL Game Plan, and then NFL Game of the Week. That will be a featured game from the Sunday, and during the course of that show, you'll also see action from the other playoff games as well. So as you can see, it's around midnight and around noon, Saturday lunchtime and Sunday night. That is the way we're going to be sorting you out during the course of the playoffs. And actually, on the 16th as well.
You've done a nice job on this tree, Mark.
I'm pretty handy when it comes to
You
things
saw the way
like
you changed it during the break, right?
I moved a couple of baubles around. It has to be said. Subtle. Feng Shui style, I feel. And on the 16th as well, we're also going to be doing our Super Bowl draw. That will be the game, that with the Sunday night, and we're also giving you the chance, whoever's our winner, that'll be your all-expenses paid trip to Super Bowl. I quite fancy Pop Monkey from Night Fever coming in doing the draw.
Well, you've been promising celebrities of all kinds.
Barbara Windsor was my first choice.
I like last week's better, yeah.
Well, we got the back end of the horse.
I'd rather have Pot Noodle than Pop Monkey.
Pop Monkey's right. I like him. He's a good-looking boy, and I think he should be in. Okie dokie. Before we press on and look at the entire season of 1999, Mike's got his own special choice of Christmas crackers.
And of course, since I'm the boring one who only worries about football, these are just boring football highlights. No jokes involved. Remember week 1, Rocket Ismail, as the Washington Redskins handed Dallas a win, letting them come from 3 touchdowns down, giving them the win in overtime. Week 2, Brett Favre, last-second victory over Minnesota. Don't forget, that's our game tomorrow. Corey Bradford with the catch and the Lambeau leap. A couple of years ago, I told you how good Al-Zahir Hakim was going to be. This year, he's proved me right. Even though he fumbled that punt, he took it back for a touchdown. He had 4 touchdowns in this game for the Rams. And with new offensive coordinator Mike Martz in charge there, he has just blossomed into a deep threat receiver and kick returner. Of course, it was only against the Bengals. Tim Biakabatuka, the only guy whose name takes longer to say than it takes him to run into the end zone, had 2 great weeks early in the season, 5 touchdowns in 2 games. Kurt Warner, NFL Europe Story of the Year, turning into the best quarterback in the NFC. Isaac Bruce having the kind of season we knew was in him for each of the last 3 years. And now the dumbest move of the season.
And Deion's going to take it at the 12. Now, wouldn't this be the all-timer? Deion's looking to lateral. Now he's going to keep it. Now it's like now no. Stanford play. Is this possible? Kevin Mathis, unless it was a forward pass.
How dumb is that? You kick the ball off to Deion Sanders. And now here's how you do laterals legally. Reggie Tongue of the Chiefs taking the lateral against the Ravens and returning the interception plus lateral for a touchdown. Turn him into a running back. The Cleveland Browns getting their first win in their new history. Rookie quarterback Tim Couch with the Hail Mary to rookie wide receiver Kevin Johnson, who, if it wasn't for a certain running back in Indianapolis, would probably be the AFC Rookie of the Year. And another NFL Europe story, Marcus Robinson doing to the NFL what he did to NFL Europe 2 seasons ago. And here is the guy who will be the Offensive Rookie of the Year, Indianapolis Colt Edgerrin James. On the ground, through the air, he's had just a tremendous season as a running back, replacing Marshall Who. And finally, the sidelines dance of the season to Mark Vanover. They were just about to bench him because he'd been having such a bad game. They let him have one more punt. He took it back all the way. Look at that. Tiptoed down the sidelines like he was on a rope.
Nice one, Mike. Not boring, exciting. I like that business there.
I like football.
The way they go, exactly. So you should.
But I love that Deion one.
That's my favourite. I mean, and it was, you know what, inches away from being one of the greatest plays you're ever going to see.